Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, surely I have turned myself to Thee, O Allah, striving to be upright to Him, who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer and my sacrifice, my life and my death, are all for Allah, Lord of all the worlds. No associate has He. This I am commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah, Thou art the King, there is no God but Thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am Thy servant. I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I do confess my faults. Grant me protection against all my faults, for none grants protection against faults but Thee. Guide me to the best of morals, for none guides to the best of morals but Thee. Turn from me the evil and indecent morals, for none can turn from me the evil and indecent morals but Thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad and bless the followers of Muhammad, as Thou did bless Abraham and the followers of Abraham, for in the worlds indeed only Thou art praised and magnified in our midst. O Allah, make Muhammad successful and make the followers of Muhammad successful, as Thou did make Abraham successful and the followers of Abraham successful, for in the worlds indeed only Thou art praised and magnified in our midst forever. Ameen. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you,
In the most holy name of Allah, the Beneficent, the most merciful God, the one true and living God who came to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom holy praise is due forever. We're forever thankful to Him for raising from among us a divine messenger, whom we understand today to be the Messiah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're thankful to them both for giving us an extension of themselves and our divine reminder and warner, one who is a comforter unto us in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. As in those three great names, I'd like to greet you, brothers and sisters, in the nation's greetings of peace and paradise. We say in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. How's everyone? All praise is due to Allah. I'm finding myself striving hard to make my word my bond, fighting for Islam, because I know we will surely win. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank you, those of you who were able to make your way out after hearing about the message for tonight. We would hope to see more, but whoever's here gets it, whoever isn't doesn't. You know, I mean, we still got work to do. Is that right? All of us have things that go on throughout our daily lives, and, you know, busy schedules and everything else. But if our desire is to be better, then we'll give that extra push to hear a word with like minds that can help us be more inspired and motivated to do better for ourselves. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I was at a prison all day today. You know, traveled on the road 2 hours and tired and everything.
Right.
However, this work here fuels my soul. You know, it's nothing like going into and sciencing up on the wisdom of God to electrify the brain cells in our brain and give us the motivation to move and strive to be more like the God who created us. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So we want to get right down to it by the grace of Allah. And the subject matter is, why is marriage half of your religion? Of course, this is inspired by the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is the one standing in the place of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad at this time and sitting in the seat of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If it was not for Minister Louis Farrakhan, many of us and hundreds of thousands of others that may not even realize it would not be moving the way that we move right now. Because we all know we come from all different walks of life, but God has used that man, his spirit, his voice, his love, to be able to touch anyone that will listen to him and inspire us to move and strive to move in a proper way. So when we start talking about religion, and religion being half our faith, I mean, you know, marriage being half of our religion, you know, many people may hear the title and say, I'm not into the whole religion thing, and you know, that's just not me. But that's just dealing with a lack of knowledge of self.
That's right.
Because in all actuality, brothers and sisters, and we know, and some of us may have to be reminded, Islam is not a religion.
That's right.
Islam is a way of life. But to go into our understanding of the definition of Islam is needed today, because the enemy has infected and slandered Islam by name so much that most people, when they hear Islam, they right away start getting visions of terrorists and everything else. But there was a time in our history of our ancient people that we didn't have religion.
Right.
Because our very nature was and is of God. So our thoughts was our prayers. We didn't have to go through salat and making these formal rituals of prayer because it was already a part of our nature. And evil and wrongdoing wasn't even in our mind. And so in order for us to get back to that, Allah had to give us a way to go in order for us to get back to our original self. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the black man and the black woman are the original people of the planet Earth. And by saying that we are the original people of the earth, he's stating in that statement that our origin is from the originator. Hopefully, inshallah, we'll get to go more into that because the science of that has a lot to do with why marriage is half of our religion. So, what is the religion of Allah God? The religion of Allah God is obedience and submission to His will. In the Holy Quran, in Surah 30, and the Holy Quran, of course, is the book of scripture for all of the righteous, but mainly known among the Muslims to be read. However, we must say that this is part of a bigger scripture. Just as the Bible is part of a bigger scripture. And these scriptures of both books come out of one big scripture. It's just that the devil or Satan is the one that tries to make it seem like they're different from one another and you should not obey one you should obey one and not the other. Right. You know, so they'll use the Bible against the Quran and use the Quran against the Bible. And those of us that are ignorant about God and holding on to a label of Christianity or holding on to a label of Islam or Muslim will say, well, I'm not going to read the Bible. Right. And the Christian will say, I'm not going to read the Quran. Right. And who wins in that? Satan is winning in that. Right. Because he got both deceived. That's right. But in Surah 30, verse 30 of the Holy Quran, Allah makes this statement that is very profound. So set thy face for religion, being upright, the nature made by Allah in which He has created men. There is no altering Allah's creation. That is the right religion, but most people know not. So here we have God stating through Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, set thy face for religion. Then they pause with a comma, being upright. Pause with another comma, the nature made by Allah in which He has created men. To set my face would mean that it has to be in my mind. Is that right? Because when I set my face, wherever I turn my face is based off of what I'm thinking in my mind. So now I'm setting my face for religion. Well, what do you mean set your face for it? The nature of God. The nature created by God, in which He has created all men, and there's no altering Allah's nature. So the nature of Allah is submission. Submission to His will. Islam means submission. And true Christianity means submission. And when you look at what is practiced as Judaism, following Moses didn't teach Judaism. He didn't put no label on it, but everything Moses did was based off of the will of God who sent him. Is that right? So he was submitting his will to do the will of God. Because if we know anything about Moses' background, before God raised him up, Moses had killed someone. So in the hood, we would say Moses had a body under his belt. Is that right? And the authorities was looking for him. But God still chose him. Didn't have no concern about what you did before I chose you, which lets us know, it implies that no matter what sins you have, when God catches up to you and brings you a word, when you submit to that word, all your sins you did before that, it gets forgiven. So you just go and sin no more. However, in stating that, it's showing how the submission to God's will is really what Islam is. So the first law of Allah God is belief in Allah. And mere belief accounts for nothing unless carried into practice. In order for one to submit his or her will, to do the will of Allah God, we must first subordinate ourselves to him. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that will is the power of control that your mind has over its own actions. Now, when we start talking about submitting our will to do God's will, subordinating ourselves to God, that means whatever I desire, I'm going to put that on the back plate or the back pedal and do what God desires first. Absolutely. Then get to my stuff. So it is in marriage. When two people come together in marriage, they're going to subordinate themselves to each other. It's no longer what my mama wants. It's no longer what my father wants. Is that right? It's no longer about my girlfriends and my homeboys and whatnot. No, it's me and my wife now. It's me and my husband now. Is that right? And that doesn't happen overnight. There's a struggle that takes place in that. Is that right? So when we start talking from this level in regards to dealing with submitting our will to do the will of Allah, we can't put it in a vacuum. Knowledge of God is very important in this subject matter and in this time. Because to have the two greatest knowledges that we can have is knowledge of God and the knowledge of self. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, as Master Fard Muhammad taught him, who is the original man. He says the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. In making that statement, he's letting us know that our potential as original people is to grow into the nature of ourself, which is God. So in dealing with the original man, we're dealing with our origin, and our origin is from the originator. Now, there's a lot in that statement because we have to take into consideration the man that is answering the question and the man that's asking the question. In the Nation of Islam, we believe that we are living in the time when the promise of Abraham is made known. That's right. Where Abraham is told in the Bible, as we read the prophecy, where he's put into a deep sleep, and God shows him the future of his seed. And says, know of a surety, Abraham, that thy seed will be a stranger in a strange land among a strange people, despised and rejected for 400 years. And after that time, I'm coming. He ain't saying I'm sending a prophet. He ain't saying I'm sending a messenger. He said, God, I'm going to come and I'm going to raise those people up out of their condition, and I'm going to judge the people that got them in that condition, and I'm going to bring your people into a promised land with great substance. Substance can mean money. Substance can mean property. But the bigger part of substance is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, along with guidance. Because we can have knowledge and we can have wisdom, we can have understanding, but if we don't accept the guidance of God, we may go in the wrong direction, or we may find ourselves thinking we're doing the right thing, but we're doing it at the wrong time. Yes, sir. Is that right? Yes, sir. So here's God telling Abraham and showing him through a vision 5,000 years in advance what's going to happen with his seed. We believe in the Nation of Islam that black people in America fits that description of a people that would be in a strange land among strange people, despised and rejected for 400 years. Because throughout the history of man, you can find no other people in the past 6,000 years, because we're talking about in the cycle of Abraham since Abraham's time. In the past 6,000 years, there's no other people that have been taken from one area into another and held in bondage for 400 years. And as many of you know, people will say right off top, oh no, the Jews. The Jews were in bondage. They was dealing with Moses and the children of Israel and Pharaoh. But in the New Testament of the Bible, Jesus is arguing with the Jews. In John chapter 8, from the 32nd verse to the 44th verse, Jesus is arguing with the Jews, and he tells them, they hear him say, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the Jews say, well, what is this you talking about, know the truth, and the truth will set you free? We've never been in bondage to any man. So now, if the Jews are the ones that were supposed to be of that prophecy in a strange land among a strange people for 400 years, and then later on, thousands of years later, they're telling Jesus, who comes way after Abraham, we've never been in bondage to any man. Because those people that Jesus was talking to were not the Jews. The real Jew is sitting in these seats. And when we start thinking about that term or that label Jew, there's so much, beloved, that we have to look at, because that is a label that was given, but it wasn't given by God. However, Paul says, there is in Christ, there is no Jew. Is that right? There is no Greek. There is no bond. There is no free. All are one in Christ. Because when Christ comes, he comes to give you the mind of God. He gets rid of all those labels, all those denominations, and gives you God's mind. And when you submit to God's mind, everybody becomes one, because everywhere we look, we see God. Is that right? We don't see black. We don't see white. We don't see Christian. We don't see Muslim. We see God. People who have submitted their will to do the will of God. And when you and I submit our will to do the will of God, we become one with that one that we're submitting our will to. Is that right? Yes. All of this is tied to marriage. Because in marriage, two are striving to become one. Is that right? And in order for them to become one, they have to subordinate themselves to each other and submit. So with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in answering that question of who is the original man, and Master Fard Muhammad, whom we see as God in person, the one that was promised to come at the end of the devil's rule, at the end of the 6,000 years of rule in the Nation of Islam, on the back page of our Final Call newspaper, which formerly was Muhammad Speaks. Point number 12 of what the Muslims believe. And it states, we believe that Allah God appeared in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, July 1930, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. We believe further and lastly that Allah is God, and besides him there is no God, and he will bring about a universal government of peace wherein we all can live in peace together. Well, we're not saying that Master Fard Muhammad is the originator of heavens and earth. We're saying he's the one that was promised to come. That at the end of the devil's time, God would come in person. So when we're saying that Allah God appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, and we're saying that he's the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and Mahdi of the Muslims, but what's the first thing we're saying? He's Allah God. But he's fulfilling the coming of the Messiah, and he's fulfilling the coming of Mahdi. But he is Allah God. Messiah and Mahdi are two titles. But his original title is Allah God. Is that right? And so he raises up one from among us and teaches that one, and then gives him a series of questions and for him to answer, and based off of the adequate answer of the question, he makes all of those who will come up under his leadership follow in those same answers. I say that to say, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad answered the question of who is the original man, and Master Fard Muhammad made us to quote those same answers, he's letting you know and implicating to you and I that the original man of this dispensation of time is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That man, Elijah Muhammad, is the original man. Maker, owner, cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. It's very important for us to know that. Why? Because we're following his teaching. So if you and I are following his teaching, and in his teaching, he's teaching us what to eat and what not to eat. In his teaching, he's helping us to clean ourselves up and giving us a certain way to dress and giving the sisters a certain way to dress. When we go deeper into this, today's the 14th, we will get into question and answer number 14. What is the meaning of MGT and GCC and how that applies to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Because the pattern that you're cutting out is the pattern after his life. Though everything that we do is after the life of the original man. And so if we're after the life of the original man, that's the one that God chose. That's the one that God taught. And his work that he did for 40 years showed and proved that he met with God. The effect of his work. Here we are now, over 80 years away from the time of the coming of Master Fard Muhammad. Over 40 years from the time of the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we're standing with a man, Minister Farrakhan, who's been working in the absence of them both for 40 years now. Raised the nation back up after it was destroyed and dismantled. Not on his own, but by Allah's permission. Is that right? So there's a lot to take into consideration when we start dealing with the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God. Because the two knowledges are one and the same. What am I getting at, beloved? Your and my destiny is to grow into the nature of ourself, which is God.
Come on. That's right.
So Allah says in the Holy Quran in Surah 4, in the first verse, he makes this statement, and this is something that we normally quote during marriage ceremonies. O people, keep your duty to your Lord, who created you from a single being and created its mate of the same kind, and spread from these two many men and women. And keep your duty to Allah, by whom you demand one of another your rights, and to the ties of relationship. Surely Allah is ever a watcher over you.
Sir.
Keep your duty to your Lord, who created you from a single being and created its mate of the same kind. That statement right there is very, very powerful. And many people can look at it in different ways on the surface, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Master Fard Muhammad showed him how the originator brought himself into existence. The originator of the heavens and earth is self-created. Now we're talking about the first being. And that first being had to be a black man. Why? Because two white people can't produce a black person.
Come on, come on. Yes.
Now we're dealing with genetics.
Come on.
On a physical, this ain't got nothing to do with religion.
That's right.
Two white people cannot produce a black man.
That's right.
So if white people were the first ones on the planet, we wouldn't exist.
That's right.
At all. Because they can't produce us.
That's right.
And when you go into even their own white scientists, Leakey and Mendel, who people study in college, they start talking about light eyes are recessive, dark eyes are dominant. You can get the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive. They're proving what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching, that the original man is the Asiatic black man and woman. That one man, that first man, God in person, is a black man.
Come on, come on.
Now, we ain't got time to go deep into it, but let's touch on it. Because he said that Allah, in creating himself, he brought himself out of total triple darkness. Now, he talks about an Adam, that's in the darkness. He talks about matter. Matter is always in existence. It's that which cannot be created or destroyed. But matter doesn't matter until God makes it matter.
Come on, come on.
People can see stuff like refuse. A milk carton is empty, you throw it in the garbage. People who smoke cigarettes, they finish their cigarette, throw the carton in the garbage. Someone comes along, takes that refuse, that matter, and makes it matter because they make something out of it.
That's right. Make it plain.
Out of garbage. Just to give a small look at how matter doesn't matter until someone makes it matter.
That's right.
But this kind of matter that's in triple darkness, before there was any light, is the kind of matter that is in the DNA of us as black people. And that kind of matter is always reproducing something. That kind of matter has the kind of potential that can recreate and bring things into existence. They said if you go beyond the level of light, and the light shines of the sun 76 quintillion miles,
Come on.
But beyond that 76 quintillion miles, there's walls of darkness, and in that darkness, there's still creation being created that hasn't come forth yet.
Yes, sir.
The originator brought himself out of that kind of darkness. And to bring himself out of that kind of darkness, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he had to go to war with the darkness.
Come on.
And he said it took him 2 trillion years, striving to make himself up in the darkness as an atom that was sparked by the most mysterious force in the universe, which is electricity. That sparked the atom and caused that atom to turn it. Now, most people will say, look, man, that sounds good, but I don't believe that. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, in order for you to understand how God brought himself into existence, understand your biological makeup of how you came into existence.
Good.
And when you and I study on a biological level,
Come on.
a sperm cell going in a vaginal tract of total triple darkness of the womb of a woman,
No light. Yes, sir.
going upstream, billions of cells. But that cell has a head and a tail, and the head gives it, the tail gives it mobility, but in the head of the sperm cell,
Come on. Come on.
how does it know where to go? It's trying to get to your egg, sister. By whose permission?
Come on.
The originator set that up because after he brought himself into existence, he studied how he came into existence and then gave that as a pattern for everyone that will come behind him, but they can't be independent. Only he, Allah, is independent. We need the agency of one another in order to reproduce Allah himself. So now here we are in that sperm cell going up that vaginal tract in a hostile environment in total triple darkness. But the determination of that cell is to make it to the egg. And out of billions and billions of cells, only one make it. In billion to 1 odds. Several hundred billion. Going upstream in the vaginal tract in a hostile environment. And what makes the environment hostile is because that cell is foreign to the woman's body, so automatically her body starts fighting off that cell.
Come on. Good teaching. Good teaching. Yes,
But
sir.
that cell is in submission to God.
Right. Right. Yes, sir.
Set your face for religion, being upright, the nature created by Allah. So now here's, as a cell, we start out in submission to God. And from one single being, God himself, the originator, a black man, he creates beings after himself.
That's right.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that after 2 trillion years of fighting with the darkness, he brought himself into existence. But the science of fighting with that darkness is something that we need to look into. And from what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, that science is the science of submitting to a law, mastering the law, then defying the law so you can come into another law.
Think of that.
In the darkness is the law of God.
Yes, sir.
Here's God as an atom submitting himself to the darkness. There's a law in that darkness.
Right.
But then he starts fighting against that law after he masters the law. And what is his determination? To come into light, which is another law.
Sir. Sir.
Look at how we come through. We come through the darkness of our mother's womb. We live in darkness.
Come on. Come on.
We submit to that darkness.
Yes, sir.
We get our vegetation from our mothers while we're in the womb in a bag of water in total triple darkness. But at a certain point after we master that darkness and we grow, we pushing to come out into the light.
Right. Okay. Come on, break it down.
And once we come into the light, now we want to master the light.
Come on. That's right.
And so since that's a physical reality, what's the metaphysical counterpart? There's knowledge that's given to us from God that we have to learn how to master.
Come on.
And once we learn to master the knowledge of God, then we go into another law. So we're given restrictive laws. But at a certain point, beloved, we're to master those laws.
Yes, sir.
And then defy the law.
Right.
Because we God.
That's right.
And God has to always be evolving. God don't stay in no one fixed position in regards to dealing with becoming what you would call it,
Take your time, brother. Take your time.
you know how they have still water?
Right.
Still water is that kind of water that's not moving.
Right. Stagnant.
Stagnant. We don't stay in no one position and become stagnant. Don't you know once we master one meal a day, we supposed to go to one meal every other day?
Come on, come on.
And once we master one meal every other day, then we go to one meal every 2 days?
That's right. Come on, yes, sir.
That's the destiny. Because as you're mastering that, as we're mastering that, then we challenge that law.
Come on.
Come on. That's right.
This is the way the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan explained. He said, you know, astronauts going out into space,
Yes, sir.
in order for them to get into orbit, they have to submit to the law of gravity on Earth.
That's right.
Is that right?
Right, sir.
Once they get past the law of gravity of this Earth, in order to get past it, that rocket ship has to go through pure fire, because there's a ring of fire protecting this Earth. Because this Earth has its own atmosphere. So to get out of this atmosphere, that rocket ship has to go through that fire. And once it breaks through that fire, now it's in another orbit. That's another law in that orbit.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
This is the destiny of the original man. Because when you study, as I'm saying, the principles of Allah and his self-creation, we find that there's a lot of science in there that's showing us what we have to do with ourselves. We are not independent of Allah, but we are replicas of the God.
Come on. Yes, sir.
And so for him to bring us into existence is one thing on a physical level, but now he says in the Quran, man is made complete yet incomplete. The incomplete part of the original man is the lack of knowledge of how he came into existence. So now here's Master Fard Muhammad coming out of the east unto the west with a knowledge that has not been known for 66 trillion years.
See?
Say that. Say that.
Giving it to one from among us who's willing to submit his will to do that man's will, and that's the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
So the honorable Elijah Muhammad becomes that single being.
Right.
Where Allah is saying, "O people, keep your duty to your Lord who created you from a single being and created its mate of the same kind." Master Fard Muhammad is the Lord that created a single being for us. What do you mean, brother? He's not responsible for the honorable Elijah Muhammad's physical make, but his mental make. The knowledge
Come on.
that he gave him, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad submitted to,
Yes, sir.
and started practicing, that you and I are submitting to. See, so now once he submitted to Master Fard Muhammad's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, then who becomes his maker, owner, cream in the planet?
Come on. Come on.
And once we submit to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching, who's our maker?
Come on.
Who's our owner? Who's our cream of the planet? He made you, he made me.
Yes, sir.
So he owns you and he owns me.
Sir.
Because whatever you make, you own.
That's right. That's right.
And each and every one of us,
Yes, sir.
as we produce children, that's a physical extension of ourselves. But once we start giving them the knowledge and having them submit in obedience to what we're guiding them with, now I'm maker, owner. Not owner in the sense you just do everything I say. No, not like no tyrant. But now it's not just of my physical make. That's one that's following my mind and my intellect. So it's of my spiritual make now. Now I know I'm going to be extended into the future in a righteous way, because one or maybe two or maybe three or maybe all the children.
Come on. Come on.
We don't know, because, we hit and miss. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So I don't want to get too far ahead where that is concerned, because we're talking about why is marriage half of our religion. But it's important for us to understand the knowledge base in which this is all coming from under the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, if someone is into another form of religion or a way of knowledge, this doesn't take away from it, it adds to it.
No, sir.
Because there's a common denominator in this teaching for every walk of life in righteousness. Not in rebellion, in righteousness. So we got to be mindful. It's not in rebellion, but in righteousness. So in that quote from the Quran in Surah 4, in that first verse, Allah is also saying, who created you from a single being and created his mate of the same kind and spread from these two many men and women. And keep your duty to Allah, by whom you demand one of another your rights. and to the ties of relationship. Now, here we are, under the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Most of us was raised under the voice of Minister Farrakhan,
That's right.
who submitted to the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So here's two. The single being and his mate. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan. Minister Farrakhan subordinated himself to the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Every time you hear Minister Farrakhan, he'll open up in the name of Allah, bear witness to Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, bear witness to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then tell you, I am a student
That's right. That's
of the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
right.
And he doesn't say or do anything without quoting that man first, reflecting back on what that man taught him. So he's subordinating himself
Sir.
to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who subordinated himself to Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. So there's a spiritual marriage there. But from those two, spreading many men and women. It started out with him, Brother Jibril, Minister Farrakhan's wife, Mother Khadija, and Mother Tanetta Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with them.
Yes, sir.
Started out with them
Yes, sir.
in 1977. Now there's over 166 mosques and study groups throughout America, and then those that are outside of the country based off of one man's faith. See?
Yes, sir.
So this is showing us on another level what we see on a physical level. This is from the metaphysical. Is that right?
That's right.
Of beings being brought into existence by Allah's permission. So now let's start getting into the meat of this.
Come on with it.
To help in the process of us submitting our will to do the will of God, fasting is given to us as a prescription.
That's right.
Allah says in the Holy Quran that fasting is prescribed for us so that we may guard against evil. And evil is wrongdoing.
That's right.
So when we're talking about submitting our will to do the will of God, the power of control that our mind has over our own actions, it's not easy to stay focused like that. But when you and I start denying ourselves of food in the name of God,
Yes, sir.
and we're feeding off of the knowledge of God on why we're doing that, and meditation of prayer, which helps us to purify our heart. Not the heart that pumps blood, but the heart of our thinking, the heart of our mind, to get back to our original self. So prayer is an exercise for the original man.
Come on.
It's a prescription for devils.
Come on.
But we've been under devils for a long time, acting other than ourselves. So that prescription is needed, but prescriptions have their expiration date. Is that right?
Yes.
So the more we practice prayer under the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, live by the restrictive law, at a certain point, you ain't gonna need to pray no more.
Come on.
Because your every thought is gonna be based out of what Allah wants and what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught. Is that right? Your self-accusing spirit and your conscious mind becomes one. You ain't trying to do wrong. You ain't even thinking about doing wrong. At a certain point, you get rid of so much negativity, you don't even allow negative thoughts to stay in your mind. Now you growing into another law.
Yes, sir.
And ordinary people may not realize it, but you know, and you still have to answer to Allah.
Yes, sir.
But on another level, and to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's why our work of the as a civilized person is very important, to teach the uncivilized.
Civilized righteous.
Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, and refinement, the pursuit of happiness. Take them out of savagery. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So when we have learned to discipline ourselves according to the will and way of Allah, our reward is peace and contentment of mind. He places us in goodly dwellings. In the Quran, it says gardens of perpetuity in which rivers flow. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan shows us that everywhere where it talks about heaven in the Bible and the Quran, it's always dealing with physical realities. Gardens, date palms, pomegranate trees, rivers in which, and places in which rivers flow, milk, honey. It's not talking about gold. It's not talking about someplace up in the sky. So what is it for us in this time? Because that's 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 1,400 years ago. Master Fard Muhammad said On the spiritual level, heaven is peace and contentment of mind.
Yes, sir.
On the physical level, it's luxury, money, good homes, friendships in all walks of life. Who don't want that?
Come on, come on.
I'm talking about heaven while we're alive. I don't know what happens after you die. Because I ain't seen nobody come back and say anything. So as far as I'm concerned, no one comes back after physical death. But to have heaven on earth is to have peace and contentment of mind. In order for me to have peace and contentment of mind, I got to stop doing wrong things.
That's right. That's right.
If I know that my nature is God, God don't lie. I got to master telling the truth
Come on.
Practice.
and not lie. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's right.
And with that comes peace.
Yes, sir.
I'm not stressed no more. I ain't got to catch up with my lies. I ain't looking to rob somebody or get over or sneak thief things. There ain't none of that. Because there's something going on in my perpetual movement toward my resurrection. I'm in the process. We're in the process. And with that, I get peace and I get contentment of mind.
Yes, sir.
Now, in Surah 5 of the Holy Quran, in verse 3, this statement is made. And this is going to allow us to get to the nitty-gritty, because this is just part 1, but we'll get into part 2, inshallah, next week. This statement is made by Allah. This day have I perfected for you your religion, and completed my favor to you, and chosen for you Islam as a religion. Islam as a religion. Here's Allah saying through the prophet, this day have I perfected for you your religion, and completed my favor on you, and have chosen for you Islam as a religion. Prophet Muhammad is quoted as saying, he who marries has perfected half of his religion.
Come on. Sir.
So if Allah is telling us, this day have I perfected for you your religion, and completed my favor on you, and have chosen for you Islam as a religion, and then you have the prophet saying, he who marries has perfected half of his religion, then we got to understand, any man that is not married is a man that is not perfecting himself.
Uh-oh. Yes, sir.
For marriage helps man to perfect himself.
Think about
The struggle of two individuals of different natures striving for perfection is ordained by Allah.
that. Yes, sir.
Now I'm getting to something, because there's a piece that was left out. I didn't forget it, but I want you to know. Remember, we're talking about Allah and his self-creation? 2 trillion years in the making? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said after that time, after he brought himself into existence, he studied himself. And then brought from himself another self, which is the woman. God created from himself
Come on.
the woman.
That's right.
We ain't talking about any woman. I'm talking about if God was an original black man, then no black woman is who came from that original black man. Now that's the first act of his creation. He made a woman for himself. For what purpose?
Good question. Good question. Yes, sir.
In the Holy Quran, Allah says, if I'm not mistaken, it's Surah 30, verse 21, but I just want to make sure.
Make sure, brother. Make sure.
And we'll get to the Bible, but, you know, the Quran verifies the truth of the Bible. And of his signs is this, that he created mates for you from yourselves, that you might find quiet of mind in them. And he put between you love and compassion. Surely there are signs in this for a people who reflect. Surah 30, verse 21. So here's Allah letting us know
Yes, sir.
that I'm giving you a woman for quiet of mind.
Yes.
Consolation.
Yes, sir.
between the two of you, that you might find quiet of mind in them, and he put between you love and compassion. Now look at this. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, when God makes Adam, it's talking about he makes him from the mud of the earth. That a mist came up from the earth, and God formed Adam and then breathed into his nostrils of his spirit, and man became a living soul. Then at a certain point, he says, it's not right that man be alone.
Come on, come on.
He ain't giving him Steve. He gave him Eve. Is that right? Because look, in submission to Allah, celibacy is not ordained by Allah.
Come on.
It is not
Yes, sir.
Allah's determination for any of us to be walking around single forever. You can't be one who's striving to submit your will to do the will of God in the nation of Islam or anywhere else under religion and be talking about, I don't need no woman, I don't need no man, I'm going to just be by myself, I'm married to Allah. Stop it.
Come on, teach you on that.
Stop it. It's against your and my nature.
Yes, sir.
It's against our nature. Now, if we're single and we don't have nobody, what am I supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to be fasting and praying.
That's right.
Because that's going to help you discipline yourself. Oh, it's easier said than done. Look, I'm already married. I'm sorry. I can't. What I'm going to tell you, look, I'm just saying. That's the antidote. Because Allah does have someone for you. However, it's not all about a physical level.
Come on.
When we start talking about peace and quiet of mind, sister, it's in your nature to give consolation to your man that you're married to.
That's right.
You deserve it, brother, but you only deserve it if you're doing the work.
That's it. Yes.
There's prerequisites, right?
Yes, there's prerequisites. Now look at this. We know that we've been made other than ourselves.
Yes, sir.
We know we've been broken up as a family. We know that Allah ordains marriage for us. So that doesn't mean that a sister's going to say, well, brother, you ain't doing nothing, so I don't want to be with you because you ain't doing that. No, we're in a certain circumstance and condition where we got to come together in the name of Allah and be, like on the job training.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We got to do work and work on that marriage at the same time. But it's the marriage that's perfecting us. Perfecting half of our faith, which our faith and our religion that's perfected for us is Islam. It's not the Islam of 1400 years ago.
Come on.
It's the Islam that has been perfected. What perfected it?
Come on.
Trials and tribulations.
In the Holy Quran, where Allah talks about rules of interpretation, he says none knows its interpretation save Allah. Period. And those firmly rooted in knowledge say we believe in it. It is all from Allah.
Yes, sir.
They all are waiting for the Mahdi to come. The self-guided one who breaks the cross and kills the swine, who gives the real interpretation of that which people were in between on, because some of the verses are allegorical and some of them are decisive. Allah comes and brings the right understanding of it all. That doesn't happen 1400 years ago. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he gave the revelation. He didn't give the understanding on the revelation.
Come on.
That's to come at the end of the devil's rule.
Yes, sir.
And the end of the devil's rule is after the sealing of the prophets. Because all the prophets were sent to devils.
Listen.
That's right. Actual fact. Yes, sir.
You ain't find no prophets coming to us.
Not to us. Not to black man.
Everywhere you find where prophets was raised, you find them in European countries.
Yes, sir.
That's true.
But they came from black countries. Why they ain't stay with us and teach us? Because your nature was already righteousness.
That's right.
You may have been a little bit off, but that white man was in a worse condition, and he was given 6,000 years to rule. So God, out of his mercy, sent them prophets to give them the proper way to rule. And they killed some, they beat some. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So they condemned themselves. However, once again, when we start dealing with perfecting ourselves through marriage, two people of different natures becoming one, there's a struggle there. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that struggle is a struggle that's ordained. Now, in our study guides, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he deals with that. And I just want to quote his words before we go further. Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
He says, marriage is the desire to unite. The marriage vow is the statement of intention to unite. Immediately thereafter, difficulties arise. The difficulties are generated by our desire to unite, in that they bring the man and woman together in a trying situation. Because while God created man and woman to incline toward one another and to seek unity with one another, he also made it a difficult thing to do.
Yes, sir.
The process of uniting through marriage is a replication of the process of uniting with God. If we run away from the difficulties of marriage, we diminish our ability to face the difficulties of seeking to become one with Allah God. So any man or woman that will run away from the marriage, you're going to quit on God too. That's a sign that you'll quit on God real quick, as soon as things get real difficult.
Good teaching, good teaching.
So the minister goes on to say, the desire to attain a goal brings us face to face with difficulty. When we undergo the trial of difficulty, the trial may be so intense that it extinguishes the light of desire to attain the goal. Sometimes in the struggle of marriage, the two natures striving to become one, the personalities conflict with one another. Certain characteristics of one is just, is almost unbearable to deal with by the other. Is that right? But if God is at the foundation of it all,
Yes, sir.
then we always can go back to what God said.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
To be that criterion that we're living by. I may disagree with you, you may disagree with me. Okay, what does God say about it?
Yes.
Let's bring that criteria up and see where we weigh at on that side. And if both individuals are striving to submit their will to do God's will, then they're going to have to bow in submission to, okay, I ain't even really see it like that. You're right. Is that right? Now, in the book of Ephesians, Paul is talking about Christ and his love of the church. And that he loved the church so much that he submitted himself to the church and was willing to even give his life up for the church. And then he's telling the people that as Christ submitted himself to the church, then men and women, man should submit himself to God like that and to and become one with his wife. Because, well, let me just read it. Can I read it?
Yes,
You know what I mean? 'Cause ain't no need in me just trying to, just quote it off the top of my head and fumble it all up. But it is in the book of Ephesians where Paul is talking about this, and it's just one point about it that I wanted to bring up, because even though Paul has got this thing a little bit tainted, now of course I don't have it marked, so I can't find Ephesians right now. Paul got this thing a little bit tainted because he's saying Christ has submitted himself to the church. Christ ain't submit himself to the church, but I understand in the sense of where's the real church and where's the real mosque? Is the mosque 202 Pennsylvania Avenue? This is just the building we come into. Is that right? Where is the true house of God? This body, this is God's temple. Is that right? So when you start talking about Christ submitting himself to the church, it's talking about submitting himself to God. But Paul is not identifying God as, in that sense, as a man, I guess. The indwelling spirit, that's right. And when you start dealing with that indwelling spirit, I'm coming up on it. When you start dealing with that indwelling spirit, then now you coming up on something. Well, I thought I had it. Well, in any case, I ain't gonna, because that's taking time away. But he's saying that, husbands, love your wives as you love yourself. Just as Christ loved the church. You see? And when you love your wife as you love yourself, you're not going to beat on yourself, so you don't beat on your wife. Is that right? Whatever you want for yourself, you should want for your wife. Is that right? And so the criterion of protocol in that sense is God, man under God, woman under man under God, and children under woman under man under God. Now the feminists may say, well, what's all this stuff about the man and God? Look, we can't get caught up in a feminist attitude when we accept the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self. Because the originator in creating himself is a man.
Yes, sir.
There's no ifs, and buts, or maybes about that.
Right.
Inside of that man is the X and the Y chromosome, which in that X chromosome gives birth to that woman because it's the unknown. However, the main thing that we're understanding here is the woman is brought out from God because God wanted some consolation. He wanted some quiet of mind. After 2 trillion years of fighting against darkness,
Yes, sir.
you would think, man, I want some peace of mind.
Come on, come on.
That's right.
And I want some peace of mind from something from myself.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So when a black man and a black woman come together in the name of God
Come on.
and we work, that man is supposed to go out and work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not just a regular job. That's part of it. Because men are the maintainers of women. And so to maintain is the upkeep.
Yes, sir.
And when we start talking about maintaining and upkeep, that's on a financial level, that's on a psychological level. Is that right? That's giving support. That's being able to keep that dialogue going. That's studying your woman. But you're supposed to, and we're supposed to get to the point where she's willing to subordinate herself to the God in you and allow you to manage her affairs.
Yes, sir.
That doesn't mean she don't move about freely as she wants to. Yes, but she knows, look, my husband is my protector. My husband is my maintainer. If I desire to do something, let me check and let him know first and see what he thinks about it, because he's not going to disagree with me out of envy or jealousy or hatred or spitefully. He's looking out for my best interest, and I want that protection to be there because this is my man of God. And this is my woman of God. Is that right? So when it comes down to it, when it gets to the point where you and I, brother, we're working a regular job, but what's our real work? We're building a nation.
That's right.
By building a nation, we're understanding that we got to rise our people's consciousness up, and in bringing up their conscious level, unify them, right? And proceed to get them to take control of their lives so they can take control of their household and take control of their communities. Coming up out of the mental shackles of slavery. And to do that, we have to have tactics and maneuvers that's given to us by the man of God, but we have to use the knowledge of God to be able to figure out the psyche of the black man and the black woman that's in the wildness of the savagery of those streets, and work on them and work on the Negro politician. It's work, is that right? And so when a man is doing that, he has to think about that. He has to concentrate on, how am I going to do this? How am I going to win this over? In the midst of that, there's a lot of pain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because while he's thinking on that, and that's his first work, he still got to deal with this white man at the job.
That's right.
He still got to deal in a society that's diametrically opposed to his very existence as a man. Because in order for the white man to rule, the black man had to be crushed.
Yes, sir.
These two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So he'll crush the black man and then take our woman.
Yes, sir.
So we look at a black woman that's black on the outside but got white spotted fever. She thinks like the white man. She looks up to the white man. And we got to win that mind over. Now in marriage, that's a hell of a thing. Because now you're in the home and you battling. Battling on a mental level. It's not no physical thing, but it can get physical if the brother is not relying on the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of God, and allows himself to get so frustrated because that woman is from God. And even if she don't know she's from God, she has a certain nature about herself that can cut right into the man of God without, when her tongue is sharp. And it can get very loose and crazy. Is that right? And one thing you'll understand, when you're looking at the black woman, she's going to communicate. She don't like something, she's going to say it. The black man, he don't like something, he going to hold it in. But if we study her and she's studying us, then we'll learn We're two halves of one whole. So the way she's expressing herself, man, I gotta stop holding this stuff in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I need to communicate. Because I'm noticing if I don't communicate and I hold it in, when it does come out, I'm exploding. I'm like, she's like, whoa, calm down. Is that right? But it's due to the frustration of the society impacting with this kind of atmosphere of racism, sexism, classism, the tyranny and the oppression, and the fact that there's a part of us that knows we're not really in our proper orbit.
That's right.
Once you got a knowledge of self and a knowledge of God, you a ticking time bomb walking through the streets of America, because now you know who the enemy is, you see the plan, you know what the solution is, and you having a hard way to go. Now all praises due to Allah. All praises due to Allah. So when we're working on that kind of level, there's a different kind of pain.
That's right.
It ain't the kind of pain that you'll see the black woman. Her pain is all on the physical level. It shows. And it doesn't mean that this negates her pain, but the pain of a black man that has the desire in his mind to build a nation and who's concentrating and working on how to build a nation while he's building himself up in the darkness of this reality called America.
Come on.
That's a different kind of pain.
Yes, sir.
That's a different kind of crying that goes on in the heart and the mind of the original man, and he needs consolation. He needs peace and contentment of mind. He needs to be able to get with his woman and she give him quiet of mind. Now, how do you give that black man quiet of mind?
Come on. Come on.
Sister, I'm not in your class. But you have the skill. It's just a matter of pulling it up and using it.
Yes, that's right.
Most of the time, you know us better than we know ourselves because you sleep with us. You're around us all the time. You're watching us when we're not even knowing that you watching.
That's right.
But for what purpose? See, because if you studying your man to control him, you going against the nature of Allah. The idea of God is in the mind of the man. It ain't in the mind of you're the fulfillment of the idea. Remember, he brought himself into existence. And then his first act of creation is he created you. He made you. He's the maker, owner, cream of your planet. But for what? To give consolation, to be a helpmeet. Help him to meet and overcome the obstacles in his path. Doesn't mean that you have to do my work. Hell no. No, brother. We out here by ourselves with this. As much as I get tired of taking out the garbage, I know for a fact, as long as there's a man in the house, my behind taking out the garbage. I can't wait till my sons get old enough, take that doggone garbage out. Feel like I've been doing this ever since I could do it. From my mama to my wife, every time I turn. Okay, I had a moment. I had a moment. I get tired of taking out garbage. But, you understand what I'm saying? So, there's a certain type of skill that is given to the black woman, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the one with the blueprint. In our book of Lessons of Supreme Wisdom, in lesson number 1, which is 14 questions and answers, the first one is asking, why isn't the devil settled on the best part of the planet Earth? The 14th question is asking, what is the meaning of MGT and GCC?
Come on.
All of this is connected. So you have the 1 and the 4. Is that right?
Right, sir.
The first question in our student enrollment is, who is the original man? That original man is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
So everything in here applies to him.
That's right.
And those of us that submit ourselves under those lessons, we're following him. So Muslim Girl Training and General Civilization class, this was the name given to the training of women and girls in North America, how to keep house. Whose house? Elijah Muhammad's house.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That physical house of you belongs to Elijah.
That's
That's
right.
right.
The house you live in belongs to Elijah. If you belong to him.
That's right.
And this mosque, this house belongs to Elijah. And who's to keep this house? MGTGCC. Who's the protector and the maintainer of the house? FOI. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Just as it is at home, it is in here.
That's right.
Good points.
How to rear the children. The children at your house and the children of this house.
That's right.
Because all these babies belong to Elijah and belong to Farrakhan. But do you know how to rear them? You gotta be able to rear them according to the way he taught. Is that right? How to take care of their husbands. This black man need care.
Yes, sir. All the time.
Oh yeah,
Yes, sir.
Oh hell yeah. But not the kind of care where we become castrated men and become demasculated. The kind of care from the teachers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, where you're speaking into the nature of the black man. You're inspiring and motivating the black man. You're not allowing that black man to make excuses. And when he makes excuses, you gotta use your skill to be able to knock that excuse out the ballpark. Because you know how we'll do, we'll excuse ourselves right into hell. Procrastinating everything, and then when you don't know what I'm going through. And I did this and I did that. I didn't even tell you about all this, but you don't know. And all you gotta say, sister, is last time I checked, I thought the black man was God. Oh! What you gonna say, brother? Ain't a damn thing you can say except for. Cause now if you start popping off at the gums against that statement, you really looking like a straight up jackass. He hung. And all she gonna do is walk away and let you be over there, he hung, and go warm up some bean soup. Am I saying something wrong? Can I get a witness? Cause and the black woman got a way, all praises to Allah. She got a way of saying things that make you realize, I'm gonna sound like a jackass over here. I done put my foot all up in my mouth. I mean, one time I was frustrated about something. You know, you have frustrations in you, and they come out another way. And you don't realize you picking at your wife. Now, she's part of the frustration, but not to the level in which you picking. My wife said to me, she said, I didn't wake up to argue with you. That shut me the hell down. I was like, I mean, if I could have looked like that donkey right then and there. Because I really had a serious, frustrated attitude. But when she said, I didn't wake up to argue with you.
That's right.
Neutralize you.
Did she? Because in all of that, it was like, look, I don't look to, I love you. This ain't working. What? And I had to be like, okay. Learn to communicate better. Stop holding stuff in. Why am I really mad? What's really bothering me? But see, if I didn't have this teaching and wasn't submitting myself to this teaching through self-improvement, I wouldn't let that moment or that statement be a moment that gives me a pause to really look at myself like, wait, what the hell am I doing?
That's right.
She don't give me no problems. The hell am I arguing with her for? You know, and then behind that, you got to come with an apology. But it can't be I'm sorry just for saying I'm sorry. It got to be confession.
Yes.
All right, now here we go. See, this is why prayer helps purify our hearts. Because we weren't raised in this society to deal with conflict resolution. My mother and father's conflict resolution was tear that behind up and get out of here and go to your room. And when you come back, it wasn't no, all right, baby, hell no. You want something to eat? He's still feeling the sting of that attitude. But this is showing me love. You're going to feed me now. So, this society has been diametrically against us as a family. So now that we're learning the 8 steps of atonement, when it comes down to those kind of conflicts and you realize you're wrong, it's like you got to come back with, maybe not right at that very moment, because you got to collect yourself. And you want to be sincere. But, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have never came out like that. You deserve more than that. As much as you do, and how much you look out for me and you sacrifice. And I don't. You're right. We don't need to be arguing. But what I was thinking in my mind, I was thinking X, Y, and Z, and it was crazy. Because now you got to explain why I said what I said. Otherwise, the apology is weak as hell. If you can't identify why you apologize and confess why you're wrong and where you're at fault at, and then ask, will you accept my apology? Suppose she say no. Oh, hell no. I done told you all. No. You can't flip, even if she don't accept your apology. Your apology was sincere. See? But before you come to make the apology, you should go to Allah and apologize to him, seek his forgiveness, and then ask him, help me to articulate this in the right way and open up my wife's heart to accept what I'm going to bring to her.
Good teaching. Good teaching.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. All praises due to Allah. Then after that, you got to bring that black man swag. You got to come back with some flowers later on. No, you got to come back with some flowers. You got to be, she don't even know the flowers coming. And then the beautiful card. And then this, that, and the other. It's like, look, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Look what I got for you, boo. What? And then that's when, you do it right? She smiled from the back of her head, bro. Look, I'm just saying. Am I saying something wrong? No, okay, I'm going to get off of it because that's, a little bit of skills that, you can't know everything. I don't know everything about your class, all right? But I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
Why am I saying this? There's too much frustration going on between us.
That's right. That's right.
And we getting too quick to want to give up.
Yes, sir.
I really, over the years, have come to understand the statement Minister Farrakhan said when he said why he don't do marriages no more. Because believers come up together and they lie. Yeah, I want to marry her, and I want to marry him, and why you want to marry him, what do you see? And they give all this, and then within 3 to 6 months,
Done.
we back and forth like if though this was supposed to happen overnight. And one of the things that we'll say is, well, she in her MGT class, and I don't see that stuff being done around her. Oh, Negro, really? Oh, you think this is abracadabra stuff? Just because she's going to class, she may be going to class, but even if she's going to class and she's studying and she's trying to do some of the stuff, bruh, there's a black woman growing up in a white man's world, fighting against the grain. It ain't like you got her freed up from job and every doggone thing else. And then she got her own salvation of submitting her will to do the will of Allah. This is all on the job training, is that right? So there may be little things that's not getting done. There's other things that you see that's just not happening, and then you don't know how to address it. It's one thing, as the minister said, to know that there's diamond and gold in the earth. It's another thing on how you mine it out.
That's right.
Both of us have our jobs to do with each other in mining out the best of God out of each other, and that's going to take time. Remember, it took Allah 2 trillion years to bring himself out of darkness into light. Made himself up in the darkness, then studied himself and made a woman for himself. You marry an MGT, you marry a sister, how you going to make her for yourself? Because that's the struggle of the marriage now. But it can't happen if we're not submitting our will in the midst of it to do the will of Allah. Because the other half of that is our prayer, our charity, our sacrifice, our life, our death. Is that right? All for Allah. While we're at the same time having our own prayer with each other for the betterment of our relationship, submitting our will to do the will of God with each other. Is that right? Fasting, praying, being patient and tolerant with each other. It shouldn't be the marriage should go on for at least 3 years before you get to a point of saying, look, we need, we really got to think about separation. Unless there's some serious major violation. 3 years. Hell, I'm seeing stuff, it's like 6 months, a year. Within the first month, stuff is really heated and you just holding on because you don't want to embarrass yourself. And then after a year, it's almost explosive. But everybody, both sides are being very impatient and intolerable with one another. That's not the way of Allah, God. That's not the way of this teaching. No, there's more things that have to be taken into consideration. Because if you're quick to walk away from that marriage, you'll be quick to walk away from Allah. You'll be quick to walk away from the mosque. You'll be quick to walk away from class, FOI, and MGT. Because, as the scripture says, how can you say that you love God whom you've never seen, but hate your brother and sister whom you see every day? What it's implying is in your brother and sister is God. Now, we know that the black man and woman is God. So how are you going to walk away from God? Thank you, sir. That can't happen. That needs to cease. So as we put a pin in this, we have to understand, Jesus is quoted in the Bible as saying to his disciples, it's expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter cannot come. He will be the Spirit of truth that will guide you into all truth. He will be a bearing witness of me and my work. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is that Jesus figure raised up among black people. Minister Farrakhan is a comforter to us on his behalf. In the spiritual sense of a woman, he gives each and every one of us consolation and quiet of mind. There's not a time you don't hear from the minister and he doesn't bring peace and contentment to mind, to the very essence of our soul. Because he has subordinated himself to Allah and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He is a sign and a perfect example for us of how we can make our marriages better and our relationship with Allah better. So brothers and sisters, I want to pause for now and thank you for giving me your time and your patience and listening to these words as I greet you all in peace. Assalamu alaikum. All praises are due to Allah. We went a little bit beyond the time, and so we're kind of behind time, but I want to ask, how many of you are glad that you came out tonight by a show of hands? All praises are due to Allah. Praise be to Allah. And how many of you believe what you heard and that which you understood to be the truth and good for us as a people? Can I see by a show of hands? Well, let's give the truth a round of applause, because the truth is independent of itself. Now, I know everybody in here I'm familiar with everybody's face, but I know Sister Nicole. Is this your first time to the mosque?
This particular mosque, yes.
But you've been to Muhammad Mosque before, is that right? Okay, all praises due to Allah. Will you be coming back?
Yes.
Oh, praise be to Allah. I look forward to seeing you again. All praises due to Allah. But for the sake of time, are there any questions? We can take at least 3 questions before we get ready to close out, take up charity and close out in prayer. Does anyone have any questions? You ain't got to make nothing up. Yes, Sister Tara?
So part of your lecture tonight, you mentioned about, how I wrote the question down as you were speaking. And so my question ended up, what happens when a man doesn't know how to love a woman because he doesn't know how to love self? Because you mentioned about, loving yourself.
Right. Okay, now, the big part of all of that for the individual, for the man as well as the woman, but for the man in particular, is what we have in the process of the study guides of self-improvement. We must always be analyzing ourselves and examining ourselves and making corrections based off of the criteria of the knowledge and teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So in order for that to happen, humility has to be there. You can't do this and be arrogant. And what helps us to humble ourselves is prayer. So oftentimes we find that a lot of us ain't praying.
That's right.
And whether it's a dua or salat itself, But doing it just as a ritual is not going to help. You got to know why you're praying. What's that doing for? What is that doing for you? Because you're not praying to no mystery God. Is that right? So it's audible, but it's coming out of your conscious mind to go back into your ears to meet up with your subconscious, and then there's an action that goes with it, but it's helping to purify the heart of our thinking. So when it comes down to dealing with love, because I remember when the minister was at one time dealing with us with the meaning of love, it was like, look, we had to really look into, okay, when I say I love, what is it?
Come on.
Love and duty go hand in hand. We can't say we love and we're not willing to be dutiful. That's not going to work. So there's an action that comes along with it. And from that action, we start understanding I'm showing my love. But then at the same time, remembering knowledge of self is not just dealing with the knowledge of supreme wisdom that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad got from Master Fard Muhammad for us. We have to use that wisdom to look back on our family structure. How our mother brought us up, what was inside of our father, the family life that we came up out, because there's things in that is still affecting us. And then we can look back into it like a scientist and take out the bad and stick with the good and work on ourselves. In other words, it's right back to what we were saying. You building yourself up in the darkness of your own reality. Because in all of us, there's still some darkness. And if we're not working on that, then how are we going to become God?
Come on.
It's knowledge of self. And then we have to do for self. We have to work on self. Even while we're working with one another, you and I still got to be working on ourselves to come up, to go to war with the darkness from within and the darkness without. And our ultimate goal is to become God.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Did I answer that for you? All praises due to Allah. Okay, so we'll wrap this up. Brothers and sisters, now, with us being here, the next portion of this, we need to take up some charity. So we're asking everyone to give until it helps, not until it hurts. And there's enough of us in here to raise at least $200.
Yes, sir.
Not unless one person has it, because if one person has it, then you can put it in for all of us, and then the rest of us can go. But if everyone gives a little, no one has to give a lot. Is that right?
That's right.
All right, so let's try that. I got $10 over here.
Yes, sir. 10 to get to 20. Come on. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, sir.
And if you don't have anything to give, pray that God, Allah blesses someone else to give what you don't have. We're not judging you by what you give or what you don't give, but, these lights don't clap on and clap off. And we don't own the building. There is a Lord over this land. He's called the landlord. And we have to pay him every month. Is that right? And if we want to keep heat up in this place, National Grid got to get paid. Is that right? All praises due to Allah. So now we just want to make sure everybody gives until it helps, not until it hurts. But if it doesn't hurt, sometimes it is not a sacrifice. Now, the latest edition of the Final Call, is it in the building yet?
Yes, I don't know, sir. I don't know.
On Friday, we'll be back in here for our study group circle dealing with study guide. I think we're still on study guide number 18. And that's rising above emotion into the thinking of God. Then Sunday, we're dealing with part 2 of how strong is our foundation, can we survive? So those of you that can make it out, let's get some guests, let's fill up the house, because we got to deal with the foundation of our belief. Is that right? We got to deal with our actions on that foundation, because there's things about to come down the line in these next 4 years that's going to rock the boat of a lot of people. But we can be resilient in the midst of it and be building while all that stuff is going on. But if our foundation of our belief and our faith is not intact, then we may get swept away. So, we're dealing with part 2 of that subject matter, all right? So I want to thank you for the charity that you gave. Give yourselves a well-deserved round of applause. All praises due to Allah. No matter what you gave, it's more than what we had before we passed that receptacle. Is that right? And when we give in charity for a cause bigger than ourselves, Allah blesses us to get it back 7 to 10-fold. We don't have to look for how it's going to come back. Just know of a surety you're storing up blessings for yourself, because charity is a part of our principles as righteous people. Is that right? Yes. With that being said, let us rise for our closing prayer. in the manner in which we are taught, our hands outstretched, our heads slightly bowed, or you may pray in whichever manner is comfortable to you. Please follow me silently. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment in which we now live. The alone do we serve, the alone do we beseech for help. O Allah, guide us along the right path, the path of those upon whom Thou hast bestowed favors, and not the path of those upon whom Thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray after hearing Thy teaching. O Allah, we beseech Your help and ask for Your mercy. For we believe in You and trust in You for all that we need. We are helpers in Your cause with Your apostle. Please grant unto us success. Ameen. Brothers and sisters, please remember, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Want for your brother and sister that which you want for yourself. Remember, we're never to be the aggressor, but if someone aggresses upon us, we have the God-given right to fight with those who fight with us. And we fight in the name of Allah. Brothers, greet your brothers. Sisters, greet your sisters. As I greet you all in peace, Assalamu alaikum, family. May Allah bless us all again in safely. Brothers, let's make sure our sisters are secured.
Ephesians 5:25.
Thank you, brother. I just couldn't find Ephesians. You know, I had it marked in my other Bible. Inshallah, next week I'll be able to go into it. Sister Nicole, thank you for coming, Queen.
Thank you.
Get home safe, all right?